In all honesty, the ugliest truth about classic trucks is how super addictive they are. If you're familiar with their lore, then you'd know that driving one is truly a canon event. When done right, they can deliver all the feels when you're behind the wheel, and the unique style will leave heads spinning. Speaking from my first-hand experience, I truly believe they can elevate every moment. Well, for anyone unaware, classic truck ownership is not just about having old machinery. It's a whole culture, and one that makes a statement about your personality. It's like saying, hey, I appreciate the bold styles of the past, but I have the means to resurrect one and make it cooler than anything else on the road. With that being said, not everyone has a personal connection to Camaros or Mustangs, but I think everyone has only a couple of degrees of separation from the great haulers of the past. And they really do strike a chord with those that remember seeing them on the road. Basically, owning one is like having a portal to a time when life was simpler, and I think we all have a fondness for those less complicated times. When it comes down to it, vintage trucks have way more style than anything you can find on current dealership lots. They stand apart with an undeniable presence to offer a refreshing departure from the ordinary, and have huge potential to be the absolute most fun things on the road. On top of that, most are super easy to find parts for, and just about anyone that has a few hand tools can work on one. And my favorite quality of them is that they hold their value very well. But just when you think it's all sunshine and rainbows with classic trucks, there are a few truths that can hinder your experience with them. The first of which I'd like to mention is rust, which is the real antagonist in this story. Let's face it, these cool and unmistakable trucks are old, and age can be very unfriendly to them, especially the ones that are located in areas that see more wet weather and even snow. I would say trucks that come from snowy areas probably get it the worst, as not only does the moisture hurt, but when it is combined with the salt that is laid down on the roads, it accelerates the formation of rust. In a nutshell, it acts like a contagious disease that eats everything it comes in contact with. And as you might have gathered by now, this is the biggest reason why finding an old truck in decent shape can be a real task. For those thinking that you can shortcut your path to greatness by getting into a truck that has been previously built or restored, all I can say is buyer be very aware. I can't tell you how many times I've heard horror stories about people doing this, thinking they got a deal and come to later find out that the previous builder didn't do the proper work to remove all the rust before finishing it off. Well, that only leads to having to peel it all back to start fresh, and that can feel like taking one step forward and two steps back. If you've been a victim of this, feel free to vent your frustrations in the comments below. Anyways, from knowing what I know, I don't think I could ever pay good money for a so-called done truck, as there is a high chance of hidden damage. If I had an unlimited amount of budget, I'd rather trust getting something from one of my friends at Old Anvil Speed Shop, Hogan Built, Big Ten Garage, Hills Hot Rods, Fat Fender Garage, Premier Street Rod, Kin Diggett Designs, Classic Car Studio, Pro Touring Texas, or Velocity Restorations, just to name a few. These are some of the trusted shops I am familiar with and would recommend, but I am also aware that they do not have cheap labor. But like most other things, you definitely get what you pay for. Well, let's say you do find the perfect project truck in good shape. There is another truth that I think needs to be addressed, and that is the fact that old trucks in original form don't ride smooth enough to meet our modern expectations. Yeah, they may go down the road all right, but if you hit a dip or roll over a set of railroad tracks, it may feel like you're driving a complete bucket of bolts. The problem here is that the suspension systems on them were designed with older tech, and this is where you can really feel the difference. Another thing about the underpinnings is that the steering can be loose, unresponsive, and a pain to muscle if you don't have power assistance. When it comes time to parallel parking these trucks, I wish you good luck, as I have experienced these struggles firsthand. However, there are some fixes from the aftermarket companies, and I think that a good coilover kit with rack and pinion steering will get you in the right direction. Though it may sound daunting to completely break down a truck to build it up correctly, the truth of the matter is that these vehicles are old, and age affects everything. That in itself is a huge reason why many may shy away from classic trucks, as they may be more prone to break down on you when left in original form. So what exactly am I talking about here? Well, a lot can go wrong with older wiring and electrical systems. This can trickle down to problems with gauges, stereo systems, and if equipped with a climate control system, issues with that too. Improper maintenance and even just straight up age can cause engine and driveline failures as well. Oh, and let's not forget the fact that the seats will most likely be busted in some way, and that can literally be a pain in the you-know-what. When it comes to hard truths about classic trucks that we shouldn't deny, let's address what they have or lack under the hood. Yes, a lot of these trucks came with decent engines and even stout V8s, but they really don't meet our contemporary demands. And besides a lack of big power, they can be a bit temperamental. They all have carburetors, and you pretty much need to be a carb whisperer to get them running in peak form. Like the suspension, the running gear on these trucks is truly antiquated technology. They don't operate as smooth as new engines and are prone to leaking. I've definitely been victim of this and can say that modern engines do a better job at handling the task at hand here. And if you can afford a swap, I'd highly recommend it. For Chevys, LS engines are the gold standard for a swap, while Coyote V8s work best in Fords if you have the budget for them. And as far as engines for Dodge trucks, modern Hemis have plenty of go power. With all these things combined, you probably guessed by now one of the bigger truths of these trucks, which is the fact that they can completely drain your resources. In order to get a truck to a respectable level, it can take a substantial amount of budget. Yes, you can save some hard-earned cash by doing the work yourself, but time is also a resource, and it will take a lot of it to get the job done. There's no way around it. They will either cost you time, money, or even both, but I think the juice is worth the squeeze here. With that being said, I was recently given the opportunity to borrow a fully finished 67 Ford F100 built by the talented folks at Velocity Restorations. This truck was completely redone to meet today's standards, and lucky for me, I was able to pilot it with pretty much no restrictions. I drove this truck everywhere for about a week, and it definitely solidified all the things I know about these trucks and why there is a certain criteria to make them fully enjoyable. Starting from the bottom, this truck was set on a Roadster Shop spec coilover chassis with rack and pinion steering and hydro-boosted large bare brakes. The new chassis not only looked great, but systems like this really make driving these trucks easy and comfortable. Handling was terrific too, and it truly felt like I was in a new truck. Getting this truck up to speed is a Gen 3 5-liter Coyote engine with 10-speed transmission and a 9-inch rear end to get the stunning Forge Line wheels moving. Though it does not have any performance upgrades, the 460 ponies from the engine was plenty enough to get me up to speed on the highway. And trust me, I was not shy when it came to mashing the throttle pedal. I also live in Orange County, California, and as crazy as it sounds, no one was able to get past me while I was behind the wheel of this beast. As far as aesthetics are concerned, this truck was well rounded with new exterior sheet metal, shiny trim, and eye-catching blue and white paint. On the inside, it is even more luxurious with a modern foam-filled bench seat, premium leather upholstery, and just the right amount of billet accessories. I especially liked the operation of the Dakota digital gauges and vintage air climate control that made interior temperatures oh so comfortable. Yes, it does have a stereo, but truthfully, I enjoyed listening to the Coyote roaring through the custom exhaust. This truck has just about everything an enthusiast would want in a build and is the perfect balance between cool factor and drivability. I could not stop myself from driving this truck everywhere to give it a full test. I used it to get me and my camera gear to a few photo shoots in distant locations, took my daughter to school in it, and even brought it to my local skate park a few times. We all love riding in this beautiful vehicle, and it was funny watching others gazing over at it on the road. I do think it's worth mentioning that when I took my wife on a date night to a nice restaurant, that's when things got interesting for a moment. The place had big signs saying valet parking was the only option, but with a truck like this, I will always take extra caution. When the attendant rolled up on me, I told him that I would pay for the parking services, but I would not let him take the truck. Luckily, he understood and graciously let me park the truck to give me some peace of mind. That is definitely something to think about when it comes to trucks like this, as you don't want to park them just anywhere and you must take extra caution to ensure that others don't damage them. Besides the slight issue I had, the F100 was nothing short of amazing, and Velocity's build program can deliver these trucks in as little as 14 weeks, which is supersonic speed when it comes to classic vehicles of this caliber. With that being said, there can be some sticker shock on these trucks, as Velocity asks for around $350,000 to own one. Now that is some big coin, but if you have the means, this is not unheard of. This 67 Ford I had in my possession was not much different than the show quality trucks that I photographed for various media outlets, most of which cost around $250,000, and I've even been around vehicles in the 7-figure range. It's just the cost of entry for those looking to really enjoy trucks like this on a regular basis. After fully experiencing this truck, I get all of it. as it was super fun jumping in, turning the key, and riding off into the sunset. But the real question is, are these trucks for everyone? No, but it is something to think about when you're looking to build a reliable vintage hauler. In reality, building nice old trucks is not a poor man's game, but there are ways to save, and you can learn about budgeting tricks in a previous video I made. In all honesty, the ugliest truth about classic trucks is how super addictive they are. If you're familiar with their lore, then you'd know that driving one is truly a canon event. When done right, they can deliver all the feels when you're behind the wheel, and the unique style will leave heads spinning. Speaking from my first-hand experience, I truly believe they can elevate every moment. In short, this is why I live my life producing content on these trucks, as I am obsessed and want nothing other than to be surrounded by these amazing haulers all the time. I think it's a good problem to have, and you won't find me complaining about any of it. Well, that just about does it for this video, and we thank you for watching it. Make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss a future video, and we will catch you next time.